Welcome to The Problem, a Lockwood & Co. podcast. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Alan.
And today we are talking about the first part of part 3 of The Empty Grave. Right?
Is it first part? I think it's
so.
the middle part. The middle part.
Okay, well, it really confused me because when I went to open the notes, oh, that is last week's, you're right. We only had the 2, and I was like, but where's the 3? Okay, I see what happened. It's morning for me, y'all. I'm on my first cup of tea, okay? The middle part of part 3.
Lucky chapter 13 and 14.
Yes. And in chapter 13, Lucy, Skull, and Lockwood attend a conference of smaller agencies at Fitz' house. I guess there really only is smaller agencies now. Like, there's Fitz, and then there's small agencies.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Is it? I couldn't tell you who the third largest agency in London is.
Yeah,
exactly. In this world. I don't know.
Is there somebody who's got like 100 people? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Probably not Bunchurch.
Yeah, not Bunchurch for sure. I think they're as small as Lockwood & Co. basically.
Yeah. The chapter art for chapter 13 is like one of the pillars with the ghost that Lucy and Lockwood end up leaning on, but it's kind of got like a Zordon quality.
Okay.
With the floating head.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Where there's just like a face in there or a mask or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. It's creepy, for sure.
It's creepy, and also, but like, I think it's just a bad interpretation of the thing. Like, I think it's bad art.
It is. It is inaccurate to the description, but I wouldn't want to see an accurate depiction, and I feel like it would be a mistake in a middle grade novel or whatever you want to call this.
Yeah, that's fair.
To do the thing the right way, because it's like its eyes were picked out and stuff.
I suppose what I'm saying is I think she should have chosen a different thing.
Yeah.
Like, carve, whatever, art the crowd, or Penelope at the podium or something. I think
like the whole hall with the crowd and everything, yeah.
The hall, to be fair, the pillars, she is in a later chapter. So I can see where she didn't want to double up that. Yeah. But I just feel like it was the wrong choice for the art style. Right choice for, like, thematically for the chapter, and that's probably why they did it. We've talked way too long about this. It super doesn't matter. I mean, that's kind of the underscoring of our podcast, though, right? None of this matters.
Yeah, we do well on the peripheral stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. But I think when we left off last time, the group kind of broke up. George is like, I'm going to go try and track down this book at a library, and Lockwood and Lucy are like, we're going to go to the meeting that we got the letter about. Holly can't come to this thing, and so we just kind of start off here in Fitz. We just skip over traveling there and stuff. So
yeah. We get a paragraph about how Penelope Fitz is a bit of a recluse. She's not usually seen just hanging about Fitz' house. And the general public only catches small glimpses of her throughout the city. And that's why everyone is there to see her. Not because they were commanded to be.
Right. Yeah. It's a big deal to be invited here to talk to her. I think you said
hear her talk.
Yeah. Earlier in the book, I think it was about the funeral, that it was very like royalty coded, and this feels very royalty coded to me too. This whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like she's standing up on a balcony addressing her subjects. 100%.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The last time that she was in real public was like the parade, probably.
Yeah. Which went swimmingly. So I'm sure everyone's not on edge here.
Yeah. But she gets to see everybody. Lucy gets to see all the other agencies here in their uniforms and stuff, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, I absolutely get why this isn't the case, but I do wish we got more from the other agencies. Like, what's happening there? What's the mood? What are they talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I feel like if this were a differently written series, like maybe an older series or just different, there was a chance for like the ending to be this epic coming together of all the small agencies, you know?
Yeah. A little bit, more Marxist uprising of like, the disenfranchised. Yeah, I've had that thought too. that like maybe they should have. Lockwood is the kind of character who can't abide that though. They're like, and I think Lucy even says that usually this would be like putting a bunch of tomcats into a bag and expecting them to be well behaved to get all these prideful, independent agencies together.
Yeah, but so that's when it's good.
Like in their, yeah,
you know, when all the people who haven't gotten along, like it's the microcosm of Kips, basically.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's what makes it a good story for sure. Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, that's not the story that we're telling, but it would have been fun.
Yeah. I think you're right though. That does feel like a late 90s, early 2000s thing that would have happened. The collective kind of rising up.
Yeah, or just if this was, I feel like because this is middle grade, we stay very close with our main characters. We don't really expand out.
Mm-hmm. We would have had to set that up more in previous books.
Yeah. Would have had to go throughout all the books and stuff. Yeah. So I get why it doesn't happen. And I'm not saying it should have. I'm just saying I would like that story also.
Yeah. I would also like to know more about what's happening with these other groups. You do get a general sense of the mood is not happy. Like people are not like, love to be here. Like, remember the ball? That was fun.
Yeah.
They seem to be like unhappy.
Everyone seems to know what's about to be said, even if they don't know it.
Yep. This isn't like one of the Oprah meetings where it's like, you get a car and you get a car. Like they know what's going to happen.
Lockwood has a great line where he says, forget Tufnell's place, Lucy. Look at this. This is a proper bit of theater right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect everyone else is having that same conversation. Like, look at the show they're putting on.
Mm-hmm. I think this is Lockwood being a little bit more canny than he was in the first book, where, you know, like the iron magnate showing up at their house and being like, I'm going to solve all your problems. And he's like, great. How fortuitous, you know?
Well, to be fair, he wasn't 100% taken in by that guy also.
That's true.
But yeah, no, they've kind of been burned a lot by the institution. So
and they know all of her dirty secrets.
They know all of her dirty secrets. Yeah. And they know all of Rotwell's dirty secrets. And, you know, so that they know that there's nowhere for them to turn.
Yeah. There's no grown-ups coming to save us.
Surprise, surprise.
Grown-ups are the problem.
Literally. Yeah. Oh, that works with us too, because we're our podcast. Yep. Yeah. That's good.
We do find out that Lucy has brought a bag along that she sets on the floor, and it has Skull, like I said in the summary.
Which I think is...
So I think this is kind of crazy to bring Skull here. It seems dangerous.
That was a stupid choice because their bags can be searched anytime.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, would they recognize what Skull? I feel like somebody there would, but would everybody? It gives me a lot of tension through the chapter that never gets paid off. But I guess they felt like they needed to do it to confirm everything that we've learned about Penelope so far.
I don't know. It feels a lot like that first section that I shitted on.
Mm-hmm.
Because he doesn't give us any new information.
Mm-hmm.
He just confirms things that he's already said.
Yeah.
So it does sort of feel like an unnecessary risk.
I don't know that that's 100% true. We do get a tiny little extra thing here, which I think is useful to know. But yeah, for the most part, it doesn't feel like... But there is no real danger, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I have this tension once he shows up of like, oh no, they have to like, can Marissa hear? Because it's psychic. So it's not like, you know, whispering will help, but maybe it does. Like, I don't understand how it works. So like,
I don't think he talks while she's in the room.
I think he does though, at some points. So I don't know. And would she care? Does she know about Skull and not care? Does she know what Lucy is? And like, that's the point. Like, is this a good thing? Like, we just don't ever see anything around that. And so like, I don't know, there's a lot of, like, I have feelings about this when I read it, but those feelings don't seem to be connected to anything that Stroud is actually doing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. She like, I would say she knows about Lucy, or she knows about Lucy's potential, but she doesn't know that Lucy is living the potential.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
There is a possibility that she does know about Skull, because if Skull could see her when Marissa Penelope, whatever, was in their kitchen, then presumably she could see Skull.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not she took note, though, we don't know.
Yeah. And I don't know. And Barnes knew that they had skulls. So did he ever write it up? Did that ever come across her desk?
Yeah.
I don't know. It kind of doesn't matter. We never find out answers to that, but it is like a thing about this chapter that Skull is here, which is fun. I always want Skull to be along, but it just introduced a tension that I don't think was intentional for my experience. And so it's a little baffling what's going on here.
And then the same thing happens with another thing. Like, there's another tension bit in this chapter that also comes to nothing.
Yeah. 100%.
We're pretty much there. I mean, just before the talk happens, Lockwood wanders off as though he's going to go search for something or something. And I was like, buddy.
Uh-oh. Yeah. What are you doing?
And he does it out of nowhere. Doesn't warn Lucy, just is like, stay here, listen to everything she says because I want to know about it. And then he walks off. I'm like, you had better have just come up with that in the moment and not like actively decided to not share your plan, because that would be shitty.
Yeah. I think my note was he pulled a Batman, because she still thinks that he's there and like turns to speak to him and he's gone.
Yeah. Oh God. Don't ever tell Lockwood that though. That would go to his head.
He would love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I could play Batman in a movie. I should do that.
Yeah.
We do get this thing about like the whole, the Clapham Butcher Boy is the ghost that's in the picture at the beginning of the thing.
Right.
And then when they move towards it, it talks about the 9 pillars. And like the number 9 strikes me as like, it's one of those magical numbers. It's really important in like Norse mythology style magic. There's like the 9 ring wraiths in Lord of the Rings, it's like bad.
Man, Tolkien would love if like his mythology became never mind, that's not important. Carry on.
Oh, like part of the culture, like the heritage of yeah. I think that's right. I don't know if that's the reason there's 9 here, but it does feel resonant with that, because like the bone glass had 7, which is another magical number that shows up all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, these 9 pillars are kind of, we come to find out later in the book, analogous to the 7 victims of the bone glass. And like, but these are like dangerous type 2 predatory killer type ghosts that are very, very powerful. And so they're not just merely trophies that kind of show off the wealth and power of the agency, but they have like a function for Penelope's goals in the story too. So
yeah,
I just love how we're like re-highlighting the presence of them in the story. Like it's really well done.
I feel like we haven't seen them in a bit. I guess, did we get a description of them in the 4th book when they went to meet with Fitz? I don't remember.
Maybe like a passing mention.
Yeah, I don't think mention. Yeah. But our like I don't think we've gotten an in-depth description since book 2. So yeah, it is smart to bring them back in here and talk about them again.
Mm-hmm.
We do also get a good bit of Lucy the murderer during this chapter, and I love it. Like she looks over at Gale and is just like, "We're gonna have to kill him eventually." And then at the end, oh no, I guess here she says we ought to run him through and have done with it. And Lockwood's like, we would just spoil this nice clean floor. And then at the end, she's like, we're gonna have to kill him.
That is one of the most underlined things in the Kindle edition, where they're like, yeah, I don't know if that's Lucy or Lockwood who says that, but yeah, it's in
my head it's Lucy.
That guy. Yeah,
in my head it's Lucy, because she's got a taste for it now.
Right? Yeah, she's a murderer. She definitely. They both have that feeling about Gale. He's kind of an unambiguous like villain. There's no like redeeming qualities about him, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. The real reason I think it's Lucy is just because Lockwood seems so level-headed during this whole chapter, which is kind of rare for him. Well, not rare, but...
Except for running off with no notice.
But even then, he's doing it like he's not panicked. He's not...
Yeah. It's not... It is a good opportunity because he's right that she's not... If you're going to infiltrate her inner sanctum, do it when you know she's not there.
Yeah. And we did get that spiel at the beginning about how she's always in her inner sanctum.
Right.
Anyways, Lockwood walks off. Penelope comes out and starts... There's like 2 paragraphs about her stepping out, so she must have quite the presence.
Yeah. She both does and does not. I actually really like that description that Lucy has because they've built her up so much in their head. And then they see, oh, she's just a person. But at the same time, you know, like Skull instantly confirms, oh yeah, that's Marissa, 100%. So there is like weirdness to her, but she is, you know, a young, beautiful woman. I guess like, I don't know, 30 something is how I feel Penelope is.
Sure.
Yeah.
They don't really time and ages in this book, you know. Throw a dart.
Yeah, because Lucy's a teenager, so everyone's old to her.
But even Lucy and Lockwood and George, I'm not 100%, you know? Like, I get that 16 to 18 feeling for the 3 of them, but it could be wrong.
I think that's right. But they do feel more like they're in their 20s, but they had to grow up in this world, you know, like emotionally. Yeah. But yeah, she gives a really long speech about like, oh, isn't my place awesome? Your places all suck. It's not your fault that you suck. Speaking of you sucking, I'm going to take all of you over for your own good. You're welcome. It's going to be great for you. Basically, that's what this speech says.
Yeah, there's
the
a
Fitz
lot.
Initiative.
There's a good bit where she's like, remember how many people died last winter? We don't want all of you to die this winter.
Yeah.
And Lucy's like, none of us died because we're fucking smart.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thought for her to have. I think that kind of sets something up in the next chapter.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So she's like, don't you remember how dangerous this is? Really, this is a good thing for all of you. I care about the public good. I care about your safety. Just all the platitudes that happen in a hostile takeover. That like, this is the best thing for the market, for the business, when really it's the best thing for the business that is absorbing the other business.
And she sort of says, we'll re-examine in March after winter's over. And you can tell that everybody is just like, uh-huh.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, and she does do a good bit where she puts all the blame on Deeprek.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this isn't my choice. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like Deeprek was going to shut you all down. So I've agreed to extend my protection.
Right.
As though she didn't go to Deeprek and say, this is what's happening.
Yeah. The left hand and the right hand shaking.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
While this happens, the Clapham butcher boy kind of floats down in the pillar. That's how I imagine it anyway.
Yeah, me too.
And it is like pressing right up against where Lucy is and like checking her out. And Skull is like, whoa, that she belongs to me. Get out of here.
Get your own human.
But he tells Lucy he smells someone who's been on the other side. And this was the little bit of extra information I feel like we get in this chapter, that Marissa, Penelope, stinks of the other side. And that, so this kind of confirms what George said previously, that he feels like they were going over to the other side and that was stirring things up. They were creating a problem to solve basically in the early days. And Skull is like, oh yeah, she is just covered in the other side. She must constantly be over there. Whatever she's doing to look so young, it isn't yoga. I can tell you that. And that's what Skull says. I'm
glad we've cleared that up, you know, because I'm sure there are some yoga people out there who think that it will make them immortal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't. You know, eating the souls of other people makes you immortal. We all know that.
Oh,
that's how it works.
That makes me wish that Penelope Fitz would be played by Gwyneth Paltrow. Because she wouldn't even have to act, you know?
Yep. I love the blood of babies in the morning.
Exactly. Not that, obviously, the lady whose name I've completely forgotten because names are not for me. She's
great. So good.
Yeah, she's so good in that role. Yeah. So I was making a Gwyneth Paltrow joke, not criticizing her job.
Yeah. Yep. So, but that is like the tiny bit of Marissa information, I guess, that Skull can give us in this that we didn't have, that George's theory seems to,
I guess,
be correct.
It feels unnecessary, though.
Yeah, like, 100% for the tension that we get in this. Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, George's research did confirm it. You know, we didn't need Skull, who is not our most reliable character. Although he's usually reliable in these sorts of things, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. It already made sense. It doesn't seem worth the risk to do this. I don't know what the goal was. But whatever. Like I said, I'm happy for Skull to be in every scene. Like, do that. That's good. But yeah, she leaves. Lockwood reappears. As we said, he tried to infiltrate her, like go up the elevator to where she lives up top or whatever, and he couldn't do it. There was a guard. So he made his way back and didn't get caught. So also tension that goes nowhere.
But here's some tension. Literally, Lucy is like, the crowd is leaving. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so put yourself in the middle of it. What are you doing sticking around with Skull talking about how Lockwood just tried to break into Marissa's? You could have that conversation outside, at home. Well, if they'd gone home, it wouldn't have worked. But like, what are you doing? I get that Stroud wanted Gale to talk to them.
Yeah. We want this confrontation.
But if this were not a book, you would leave. You would put yourself in the crowd to not stick out and get out. Yeah.
This chapter really, it does a lot of necessary mechanical things in the story, but you can really feel the gears in a way that like Stroud just doesn't usually leave us feeling this way. I think that like everything feels more organic than this.
Yeah.
But you know, like we need to confirm George's theory. We need to, you know, show that security is top notch, super tight in the Fitz compound at all times because of what's going to come later. We need to like touch on Lockwood's recklessness and his death wish kind of stuff once again. And we need to have the confrontation with Gale right here, especially more than ever before the next chapter.
Yeah.
So like all of those things need to happen. They just like, they don't happen very smoothly, it feels like.
I will say, I just turned the page and you are right. It is Lockwood that says one day we'll have to kill him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I'm very sad that I have to let go of this image of Gremlin Lucy in my head.
Yeah. She comes back around to it though, like in the next chapter.
I know, but still. I just liked the idea of them leaving and her kind of grumbling, like, you should have let me kill him. I want to kill him.
I feel like in the show, that's the kind of line that they gave Lucy a lot of Lockwood lines, and that's probably how that would have gone.
Yeah. Anyways, but as said, Gale comes over to talk to them, and he does mention her big bag, but then they just get away with the lie where they said, you know, we're off to a couple cases. Perhaps you want to see my papers. Fair. Okay, the smoke screen.
Yeah.
And he doesn't search their bag.
Right. Because he's like in his power element. It's like, what's the point? Okay. He's just strutting.
Here's my question. Has Rupert already beat up George?
I couldn't figure this out either. The timeline of what was going on. It feels like with him specifically saying, like, is he at a library or something, that he is tipping his hat to be like, later on, you'll think back on this conversation and know that I knew and that I was the one.
That's what I think also, that he's already done it.
Mm-hmm.
And that he very evilly specifically came over to taunt them.
That feels like him too.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be like, let me impress the teenagers.
Yes, exactly. Which really sucks even more because then they go off and do those two jobs and you just think about George, you know, lying in the gutter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's already in the gutter, in other words. Yeah. Yeah.
I hate it. It's so terrible.
There is like this whole thing, I kind of skipped over it, where when Lockwood comes back before they talk to Gale and everything, Lucy is getting the lowdown from Lockwood, like, where were you? And she's like, you would have gone up the silver elevator? And he's like, of course I would. And she gets really angry. And she thinks about, like, how far could recklessness stretch before it became a death wish? And she's like, Lockwood, you have to be more careful. I can't believe you would do something like that without me. This is actually right before Rupert Gale comes and talks to them. So this is like the major conflict between them in this book, is this, you know, this recklessness of Lockwood but it feels, I don't know, it feels like so organic and like an evolution. It's like you said earlier in the book that this is not like taking away character growth or backstepping. And it doesn't feel like it's about Lucy and Lockwood. It feels like it's about Lockwood working out the last of his pain.
Yeah.
I just really like it. I like how much it bothers Lucy. That feels very real, and I think it's appropriate and healthy. But Lockwood going through this feels very real and necessary for where he's at too. And that's just like the best kind of conflict, I think. Like, them talking about it doesn't really solve it. It just has to work itself out, and they have to be there for each other. So I really, really like that conflict between them.
And contradicting everything else that I've said so far, I love that Skull is there for this conversation. Because I think that sets up why he would do what he does at the end.
I hadn't thought of that. That's really good.
I hadn't thought of it until just now when we were talking about it either. But I was like, wait, Skull is listening to how worried Lucy is about all this.
Yeah. So
that's good. And I also love how it ends up opposite. You know, Lockwood doesn't go up there by himself.
Yeah.
Well, I guess technically he does, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I think, this is why this scene is, like I said, mechanically important.
Yeah, mechanically we had to set up the elevators. I get it, but it just feels weird.
Yep. It's, well, the only thing that's weird about it is Stroud is just so good at this, usually. Like, I think we're just noticing that we notice it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
Like,
that's true.
He's just usually better. It's like watching somebody do close-up magic, you know, card tricks, and then you see them like move the card up their sleeve or something, and you're like, hey, what are you doing, buddy? So I don't know. The other little bit of lore or info we get here, and I think this is kind of important, is that Rupert can see the ghost in the thing. And Lockwood calls it out and says, aren't you a bit old for that? Like, and he's like, oh, I'm younger than I look. Anyway, I got to go. And like runs away. But I think that this implies that if you, we don't know this yet, but like Rupert's been on the other side quite a bit too. And I think this says that like that can make your psychic powers kind of stick or be permanent.
Yeah, which makes sense for Marissa.
Yeah.
Although I also wonder if, no, there's no point in talking about that right now.
It tells you something is up with him.
Yeah, it does tell you something is up with him. And for a minute there, I kind of forgot that Gale would have been on the other side, and that would be the reason for it. So, and if you don't know that yet, maybe you might suspect that maybe he's like Marissa.
Yeah. I think you're supposed to think that. Yeah.
Although why Skull wouldn't say something.
Yeah.
Although he wouldn't have known Gale. I don't know if he could tell about, if he didn't know Gale in a previous body.
Right. Would he be able to recognize him now? Yeah.
Would he be able to tell that he wasn't in the right one? That's
because we know. Thought. Yeah, we know that she's always had a Gale with her. So like, is it the same Gale? Like, I think that you could plausibly think that. It would be like, oh, are they both like kind of moving through time somehow together?
How romantic.
Yeah, so great. These two psychopaths. But yeah, this is where he's like, where is Cubbins? And all of that. And yeah, he walks off, and then Lockwood's like, I'm going to have to kill that dude.
Which is actually kind of funny now that I've put together that he told Lucy to not do that earlier in the chapter. And now he's like, yeah, we're going to have to kill him.
He's like, you were right. I was wrong.
Yeah, but then they go do the 2 jobs and then they head home, and it's only good news.
It's only good news.
Yeah.
There's this, I think this is a really, really good piece of writing. I've been taking it out on Stroud, being like, what happened, man? But from now on, it's like some of the strongest writing, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it says, we stopped at the threshold. It was suddenly a new night, a different one. We had passed from one to the other, and I didn't know where I was. And I just find that so deft. Like when you get bad news, it really does feel like a break in reality, like something, like you're in a different reality. And he captures that so well in like 2 sentences right there. But yeah, Holly is at home when she had something else going on. And she says there's been an incident. And Lockwood is immediately like, George? And she says he was found in the street. He's been attacked, hurt. And, you know, like this brings up Adam Bunchurch immediately.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just panic and sorrow. And that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
And so in chapter 14, nothing of consequence happens and everyone is happy and safe.
To be fair, nothing of consequence does happen.
Kind
right?
of.
Like
yeah.
we really just, as we should, stay on this for a bit, for the whole chapter. Like, I don't think I took one note.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I read it and I was like, yeah, this all seems good. Like, I'm sure I'll have, I took one.
Okay.
The chapter art, obviously, is George's broken glasses, which is terrible.
It's so good. It's the exact right image to focus on.
And then I think overall, the first half, maybe more of this chapter, is some of the best writing because he so very easily depicts the boringness of waiting for somebody at a hospital without having to linger on it. Like, so as a reader, you're not bored, right? He kind of gets past it pretty quickly, writing wise, but it doesn't feel quick to the characters.
Yeah. So my first note in this is that this part feels like the episode The Body from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and how like, you know, like a totally mundane real thing that could happen to you in real life just is so much more horrific than all this like ghosts and werewolves and zombies and stuff like that. Like, this is the real horror of having someone attacked and going to the hospital.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is emotionally what it feels like. I think that dislocation from time stuff is really, really good. And it speaks to like the reality of the metaphor that's been happening throughout this entire series around ghosts and time and trauma and all of that kind of stuff. Like how the way that all of that is a blur to Lucy is the way that, you know, like that's why the ghosts are the way that they are, because this is what it is to go through pain and trauma in real life. It's like that supernatural thing that they've been dealing with the whole time. So I really like that is in this series in a really impactful way, at least once. The guy who finds George is Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
It's
I love it.
Cab driver that we gave $50 to back in book 2. And he was like, you want me to like ram into him or drive him off a bridge or something? And we were like, no, Vin Diesel, calm down. We just want you to drop us off. I love that Jake came back. That was cool.
I love that he saved George. You know, family's important. That was me trying to make a Fast and the Furious joke.
Right. That's good.
It's great. But yeah, he found George, and the way it's described is very horrific. You know, like he thought it was a pile of clothes. Face down in the gutter. And Lockwood keeps asking Lockwood keeps asking Holly all these very detailed questions. And I don't know, I can just see him standing there fixing the image in his head so clearly. And it sucks.
I feel bad for Holly here. She wasn't there, so she's just reporting, you know, what Jake told her. But yeah, he wants all the specifics.
She doesn't seem like she seems to understand, though.
Yeah. It's just painful.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's really well done. It feels so real and authentic to all of their characters. She's so understanding of his pain. He's doing work, right? This is what he does. He retreats into work. He's like in detective mode to whatever degree he can be.
I love that Jake remembered where they all lived.
It's sweet.
Because, like, he came to Portland Row first to let them know about George, and nobody was there. So then he drove over to Holly's house. Yeah. Because he's driven her home sometimes.
He's like one of the team.
Also, it's nice to see that there are some good adults in this world who are looking out for these kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's the feeling I get from this, that he's the one adult who was like, I gotta do what I can for these kids.
Especially when it's like those nightcap drivers are described as like former criminals, and this is the only work that they can get because it's like dangerous and who cares. But obviously he is like a caring person, you know, who's like he didn't have to do that. He didn't get any money for it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, that's like a great little aside story that there are good people in the world.
They're just not the ones in charge.
Yeah.
Shock.
Yeah. They take care of each other. There's a lot of that in this chapter of people coming together to take care of each other.
Yeah. And then this is the bit that I really like about how time is just passing, but Lucy can't really, she can't really describe when and how long things are. And she's just suddenly here and then suddenly there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She says, the events of that dreadful night remain mostly a blur to me. Their sequence is unclear. Time did strange things. I have no idea how long I spent anywhere or in what order. So
yeah. Kip shows up and he helps out. They're at the hospital for a time, and then Lockwood stays at the hospital, but Holly and Lucy go back to Portland Row because they aren't allowed to see George or anything, and he's still unconscious. So being at the hospital isn't getting them anything, but obviously Lockwood isn't going to leave them there.
I wonder where his family is. We never see them in this whole thing. And it's weird that like Lockwood would be like, I'm his boss. And they're like, oh yeah, you can be here. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess
Lockwood is his brother, basically, but
also like, I'm sure they see it a lot with kids, agent kids who I'm sure there's a lot of orphan kids in London because of the ghost problem, and who, you know, their family member is whoever shows up.
The head of the agency says, I'm here for the kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, of course, go in.
But that is a good point about his family. I didn't even think about it because his family isn't dead. He's like one normal kid in Lockwood and Co.
Yeah.
In that regard.
And they've met his family and stuff, so we've heard about them before. It's not like he's estranged from them. I wonder if they even know.
Well, Lockwood did make a bunch of phone calls, but I assumed that was contacting Kipps and Flo.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's right.
I don't know.
It's fine. They shouldn't be a part of the chapter necessarily or anything.
It would mess up the story here, but now that I'm thinking about it, it is weird that they aren't notified.
I think Lockwood
going up there... they're out of the country. You know? They're away.
Sure, yeah.
That makes sense.
I think Lockwood going up there is also a kind of, like, it's the exact same structure, but like an inversion of the first book when Lockwood gets ghost touched and George is freaking out about all of that. Is like, did you go to the hospital? Did you take... And she was like, I didn't know. I was at the hospital. I didn't know. And he's like, why didn't you know? You don't know anything. Like, you're useless. What are you doing? And he's like all freaked out and worried. And now that is like how everybody feels about him. So I really like that mirroring that happens.
Yeah, we get a bit where Holly goes out and buys some donuts and cream buns, but then she and Lucy just can't eat them. So they just really like hide them away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sucks.
Lucy attacks her walls.
As one does.
It's really weird.
Yeah,
if she was a boy, she would have punched a hole in the wall. But she's an agent, so she stabs the wall
with her rapier. Now, you know, it's just decor. It's good decorating.
Yeah.
Skull says nothing during all this, and Lucy says, because he knows what's good for her.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think it's true. That he's like, well, they know that I've always hated him, so anything that he says is not gonna be good.
Yeah, that's true. I think he's respecting her pain. I mean, in a way, him not saying anything does show growth in his character, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I don't actually think that he would kill George if he was out. because of this, because he knows that Lucy would never talk to him again, would never forgive him.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Although, I mean, I think he's smart enough that even before seeing this, he would never have actually killed George. He just would have spooked him, haunted him, basically.
Yeah. I think that's true. And I think I'm just chewing on what you said about him seeing this happen to Lucy, telling him something about how much she loves George, affecting him. I think that's really, really true. That's true. Yeah. So in a weird way, Skull's absence marks growth for him because, like, thinking back to the beginning of the book and Lockwood falling down the steps and Skull is like, this is the best day ever. Like, it's great. I love it. He's not doing that here. And it's just, it shows how much he cares about Lucy, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I genuinely don't know how many days passed. I think maybe it's 2 with Lockwood at the hospital.
Yeah, I think that's right.
One morning, Lucy walks into the kitchen and Lockwood is there.
Yep. He's obviously very tired and he's like trying to make some tea or something maybe. And then he tells her George is okay. He's fine. He's alive. And he's also back home. Do you think George should have died?
No.
I don't either.
No.
I do think about what would have happened if he did.
I think somebody else should have died later on.
Yeah. I think we agree about this. Yeah.
Yeah. But George, no, that would be too much.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's not that type of book where a main character dies.
Yeah.
But I do think, well, I'm just going to say it. Who cares? We haven't cared about spoilers all this time. But I think Kip's living later ruins it. I think there should have been some consequences.
I think that's strong.
Well, not ruins it, but like Kip's should have died. Because there should have been some consequences.
Uh-huh. Yeah. We'll talk about it when we get there. It is fun that he doesned. Like, I think the joke is good, but yeah, I agree. I
think it would have been perfect if like I guess we'll talk about it later, but him feeling better on the other side was so like smartly written.
Yeah.
That the fact that he lived was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. That's what makes it feel like a cheat or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I every time I've read this, I'm like, should George have died? Like in a different book, I feel like he would have, but it would have been such a deep trauma.
I feel like
I don't think it's worth it.
With George dead, there wouldn't have been a happy ending,
100%. Yeah.
And that's not what this book is.
Yeah. And it would have opened the door for maybe something kind of cheesy and bad of him being, a ghost or something.
But they already have a ghost. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. Like,
it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, it's good. The way that this happened is perfect, I think.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Yeah. Like, the only interesting thing to have done with a dead character becoming a ghost would have been if Lockwood died.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only interesting thing you could do with that here. But with George, it would have just been like Skull 2.0. They would have been bickering forever as ghosts.
Right. Yeah, I think that's right. So the other thing that we find out here is that George is not alone. He's in Lockwood's room and he's not alone.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? Holly's up there already? And he's like, oh, no. Flo is here. And she's like, is that sanitary? Is he going to be safe? And then they go up there and she, Lucy needs to visit him.
Yeah. And then
I love that Flo comes.
I love that Flo's here and that she's turned into like a mother hen. She's like, what are you doing in here? Don't disturb him. He needs his rest. And now you've woken him. Look at that, you idiot. What?
Don't you know how to take care of sick people?
Yeah. On one hand, I think she's being incredibly unfair, but because, they're his friends and also love him, but also nobody's like, I'm sure she's not in a great place. So I'm not blaming her.
Oh yeah. This is showing, not telling how upset Flo is. Yeah. It's good.
And I love that George is awake and is like, I had it, but they took it, like he's still on the job. Because that's so George.
But I had a book. The book. Yeah.
Like, I'd done it, but they took it, and how upset he is about that. And then Flo was like, right, you're exciting him. Time's up. Get out. I love this. But yeah, eventually George does sort of tell them that he had the book with the evidence, but when he didn't see who beat him up, but they took the book from him, and he did smell their aftershave. And so we're all pretty sure it was Gale.
Yeah, I think we haven't really hit this, but almost every time that Gale has appeared in the book, the aftershave thing has been mentioned. And so this kind of pays that off.
Yeah.
That's the reason. Like when he intimidated Holly early in part 2, that was the thing that she mentioned, was how strong his aftershave smelled as he like crowded her in the in Eros.
Right. Yes.
And stuff like that. Yeah.
And I guess this is where Lucy says, I'll kill him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not as good of what I had in my head with the, we'll have to kill him. But it's fine. It's fine. I will let go of Gremlin Lucy.
Well, says that she's not just going to kill Gale. She's like, I'll kill them. I'll kill them all. Yeah. So she's like, she definitely is in her murder stage. And
then she kicks the banister because stabbing the wall wasn't enough. She's got to take the whole house down.
Lockwood tells her, he's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do something better. And then she says in the narration, I stopped trying to destroy his house and looked at him.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And he says,
go ahead.
Oh, you go.
Nope.
He just has this great like ending to the chapter.
Yep.
Where he says, our enemies think we're weak. Truth is, I've been holding back until now. Well, all that ends today. We'll strike them where they least expect it. We'll strike them, Lucy, and we'll take them down.
Yeah, that's great.
Do you think he's actually been holding back?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know what he means by that. You know what I mean? Like, is he like, I could have been murdering adults all along, but I've been polite? Is that what he's saying? It feels like he's been focused on the ghost stuff, you know, and not the conspiracy stuff.
Yeah. It feels to me that he's saying, I've been playing it safe so far, but no more.
Yeah. Like this is almost an excuse to unlock the total reckless death wish stuff. Like if they're going to do this to George, then nothing means anything. And I can just give in to the darkness and kill them all, you know?
Recklessness. Here we go.
Yeah. He doesn't say what he's going to do, which is smart because it makes you flip the page and go to the next chapter.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do that.
Because we have already been talking for an hour.
Yep.
Although this will be one of our shorter episodes. Best joke?
Lots of jokes, right?
Yeah. I think it's the part where George was face down in a gutter. I laughed uproariously.
It was the best.
Yeah, no, it's got to be. There weren't really any jokes. I mean, both Lucy and Lockwood kind of going back and forth with deciding they have to kill Gale is pretty good.
I do like Lucy just being like, is it sanitary for her to be up there?
Yeah, that was
for
good.
George.
That was a really good, like,
tension breaker.
Yeah, tension breaking and lightening of the mood.
Yeah.
Well, you know what we didn't talk about is that Lockwood specifically brought George back to Portland Row earlier than the doctors recommended him leaving the hospital because he felt that the hospital wasn't safe.
Right. Yeah. Like the doctor belongs to Fitz.
And Barnes and Deeprack were there asking him questions, and he was just like, I don't trust any of you.
Yep. Yeah, that is important.
Not a joke, but important.
Yeah. Lockwood is really tuned in to the conspiracy and all of that stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, everything with Flo in this chapter actually was pretty good.
It's pretty funny. But she's also like, he's using her just right, I think, because we are feeling her emotional pain and worry. And she's a 3-dimensional character, but he does manage to break that tension a little bit by making some jokes at her expense.
Yeah. And even she says, like, when Lockwood says, maybe you could take off your boots, she's like, my socks are worse. You don't want that.
You don't want my socks on your floor. Yeah. Yeah, so she's a little bit of comic relief.
Yeah. And that's also after we are kind of sure that George is going to be okay. It's going to take a bit, but most punk rock?
I mean, that's Rupert Gale beating up a teenager to prove what a man he is, I think, obviously.
To get back at him for something he said a couple days ago that he's been holding on because this teenager affects his life so much.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's Lockwood's declaration there at the end, like, we're going to take down the man.
So the thing that happens in the next chapter is like the most punk rock thing that happens in the book, in all the books, I think. So I don't know that we can count that because it hasn't happened. It's definitely the foreshadowing of that.
Yeah. We're setting up the punk rock in these chapters.
Yeah, there's not punk rock to be had here because even Lockwood going off to like break into the man's house, so to speak,
doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So it's not very punk rock. So I don't know. I don't know that there is anything in this part. But yeah, I mean, it's just sad. It's sad. The George thing is so powerful.
And it's like the whole time they're at that meeting, since Gale is there, it's already happened.
Yeah.
So it just like puts this cloud over everything. They're like, why are you standing here talking? George is dying. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
But obviously they don't know that.
Vin Diesel is at your house right now knocking on the door.
Yeah.
You fools. So, yeah, it's just, I mean, maybe you could give it to Jake for like going above and beyond the Call of Duty and
that's true.
You know, saving a kid's life. I don't know.
Deciding that community is important, even if money isn't involved.
Over making money, yeah. It's
very punk rock. Because, he could have gotten a fare.
Yeah. Maybe more than one, because he goes to multiple places. So, like... Yeah. But...
And he, waited with George. He didn't just call an ambulance and drive off.
Yeah. So, that's as close as I think you can come in these particular chapters. Because he's just really building it up, I think, for the biggest punk rock punch until the end of the book, which is even more punk rock. But,
when they blow it all up.
Yeah. But yeah, I think these two chapters is really crazy, right? Like there's a big contrast there where on the one hand, we had the most mechanical, almost clumsy kind of chapter. And then I think one of the best written chapters in all of these books.
Yeah, agreed. So it almost feels purposeful.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, the contrast is so strong. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you all disagree with all of our criticisms, or you do think George should die, actually, if you think it would have been a better story if George died here, this is not like a slight on George. Really reach out and talk to us about that, which you can do so on Twitter at Lockwood Podcast, or you can find me personally on Blue Sky at Inferior Caitlin.
You can leave comments on Spotify, which people do all the time. We do read them. We don't always respond, but we...
Oh, man. You know what? No, I want to respond to that one you texted me.
Oh, yeah.
What was it?
I did respond to it, too.
Oh, okay.
I basically said what you said.
Oh, okay. So somebody left a message on our part one of the French part that we mention how Skull can talk during the day so many times. And I just want to say, in that particular chapter, it is said that the sun is shining right on the jar. That's why I brought it up again.
Yeah, the sunbeam is going through the glass. Yeah.
That is egregious. World breaking. Okay? Also, we take months off and don't always remember what we've brought up previously.
Sometimes week to week, we don't remember what we just said.
I was being nicer to us than that, but yes, that is also true. I'm joking. Obviously, criticize us all you want. Also, that person put a smiley face in there, so it didn't feel like they were telling us to stop or anything. Yeah. Just pointing out how ridiculous we are.
You guys might be inconsistent. If you see inconsistencies, you can send us an email about it. Contact@hologrammedia.com, or you can fill out the contact form on the website at hollygroundmedia.com.
And remember to never wait. Just kill your enemies.
Oh, that's true.
Don't put it off.
Don't put it off.
Murder is always the answer. For legal reasons, I'm joking.